near to the heart of God, a place where sin cannot molest, near to the heart of God. O Jesus, blessed Redeemer, sent by the heart of God, hold us who wait before thee, near to the heart of God. Last verse. There is a place of full release, near to the heart of God, a place where is joy and peace, near to the heart of God. O Jesus, blessed Redeemer, sent by the heart of God, hold us who wait before thee. Amen. Chapter 10 of Ecclesiastes is where we're at. Old Testament, Ecclesiastes, so towards the front of your Bible. Ecclesiastes chapter 10. Find the book of Psalms, which is the biggest book in the Bible. Psalms, and then Proverbs, and then Ecclesiastes. Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes. Maybe one of these days I'll teach and preach through the book of Psalms, and that would take a while as well. But looking forward to Ecclesiastes chapter number, I think, 10. No. We're on 11. Yep, we're on 11. Yep. Sorry. All right, yeah. As soon as I got through 10, I started knowing, oh, no, some of those verses look familiar. 11. Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. We begin seeing here in verses 1 through 3. Excuse me, I will jump to chapter, there we go. The imperative to live by faith. I flipped through and it went back to chapter number 10. Diligence here and generosity despite uncertainty. Casting your bread upon the waters. What happens, Jack, if bread gets wet? It's not good anymore, right? It'll just dissolve into the lake. And again, this is really the thought of generosity here. So many times it becomes difficult to be generous because we want to be in control. I've said before, used the analogy before. I had a family when I was the interim pastor for one calendar year in Delaware. Family looked up to me and said, Pastor, you've always talked about wanting a playground out in the church field. I said, yes, I have. And he said, how much do you think that would cost? And we put out some numbers, and they were generous, and I would want it to be a really, really good playground, so it would like $10,000 get the church a really good playground. I said, yeah, it probably would. So I'm thinking about doing it. I said, I'm thinking about taking the check and building a playground, Ben. That's fine. And he said, I'm also thinking our church needs to go to CCM music and change it to an NIV Bible. And I said, you can keep your $10,000. Quit thinking, right? And church, that's the direct thought here. The common urges radical, generous giving without the immediate expectation of return. It requires faith that God will honor the deed and bring forth a blessing later. Now, while we're on the subject, we got at least one area of giving that should just be static. The tithe, I've preached many times before, is 10%. If you get $100, that's $10. If you get $100,000, that's $10,000. And if somebody handed you a check for $1 million, you now owe the church $100,000 in tithe. That's how 10% work, and that should be across the board. But some of the problem is, as you get to that bigger generosity there, people want there to be strings attached. But this is also the thought, I believe. You're sitting there, you're thinking, man, God's really blessed me. I've worked hard, I've already tithed, but I've got X amount of money in my bank account. I know the church could use it. I am going to give an extra offering to the church of this amount. So do it. And keep your hands off of it. Once it hits that plate, it's the church's. And we know as our church is structured, big expenses have always been voted on. And you just trust God. One of the things I always wanted to do, Brother Bontempo, and then I watched a documentary, it was always rigged anyway. I would like those Monopoly scratch or the tickets you used to do for you could win $1 million. First, watch the documentary. Nobody ever won it. It was rigged. But if I found Boardwalk or Park Place or whatever you were supposed to get that $1 million, I was going to put both pieces together in an offering envelope and just watch the deacons freak out when they get $1 million in the offering. Just give it to the Lord. Cast your bread upon the waters and you wait. Verse number 2. Give a portion to 7 and also to 8. For thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. Do not place all your resources or efforts into one basket. By distributing your generosity and diligence widely, you protect yourself from total loss during unexpected calamity. This is just kind of financial advice. If you've came into quite a bit of money, maybe don't put it all into Awaken Bank. What if Awaken Bank goes bankrupt? Where's all your money? Right? Well, they're FDIC insured, not all of them. And at times like that, it's only insured up to a certain amount. Solomon's advice here is trust several places with it. Be generous with several people. Verse 3. If the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. And if the tree fall towards the south or toward the north, and the place where the tree fell, there it shall be. We were just talking about Chuck Field's property. Where's the bricks right now? On the ground. Why? Because that's where they fell. Some consequences are inevitable. He's saying you cannot change it. There are trees in the backyard in a pile now, some of the old evergreens back there, that are always just going to be in that pile because that's where they fell, and I'm not going to take a chainsaw and saw up about 20 trees. They fell there. Have you ever, and I know I have tried it as a kid, if I pray really, really hard, the baseball that I just threw through my mother's window would fly backwards through the window, all the glass would come back together, and I don't have to tell mom and dad I just broke the window in the house. Right. The principle here is just that simple with Solomon. Sure. And I wonder how long I would have to run the dryer for all of the towels to come out folded. That would be a great invention.
That's your assignment this week.
Yes. Verse 4. He that observeth the wind shall not sow, and he that regardeth the cloud shall not reap. Folks, I've been watching the weather forecast since the snow started flying, because I now work for a school, and as a teacher, I want a snow day every single day. And right. They haven't yet. Right. The philosophy here is just as simple as that. If you're always looking for an excuse not to work, you won't work, Jim.
When I read that, it just brings me back to when I used to hire guys.
Yep.
They always ask me, well, what do we do on a rain day? I says, it doesn't rain on my job, so just show up.
Yeah.
And God always amazingly took care of that.
Sure.
Over my lifetime. Now, lately, it gives me more rain. I'm thinking maybe it tells me I'm supposed to rest or something.
It's called retirement. People do that. Delaware. Building a roof. We were re-roofing all of the shingles, brand new roof on the church. Men were supposed to show up on a certain day, and they didn't show up. So we asked them, where were you? Well, fishing was good. Big problem in Delaware. What does that have to do with the roof? Well, when the striped bass are running, you got to go catch them. We'll get to your roof later. Fishing was good. And that was so common, you can't get another people to subcontract because everybody did that. It was just a weird culture over there. He that observeth the wind shall not sow. He that regardeth the cloud shall not reap. Young people, if you're looking for excuses not to work, you'll find them. Just work. Just go. As thou knowest, verse 5, as thou knowest not what is the way of the Spirit, nor how the bones do grow in the womb of her that is with child, even so thou knowest not the works of God who maketh all. You could say, well, preacher, we know some of that now, and I'll give you that. There was a time that they knew that you were pregnant, and then a human came out. But when this was written, that's all they knew. And we may be able to explain it a little more. Well, cells start splitting, but what causes the cells to split? How does that happen? Right? We think we're so smart, but we're not. And even so, thou knowest not the works of God, who maketh all. Again, this is a common sister verse to Romans 8:28. We know that all things work together for good, but we don't know God. We don't know what he's going to do. I've said many times, if God would tell us the entire future of the rest of the days of our life right now, it would scare us to death and we wouldn't do anything. We don't know what's going to happen at 2 o'clock today. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. God will not tell you because he's God and you're not. He's in charge. You're not. That's where faith, that's where trust comes in. Verse 6. In the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thine hand. For thou knowest not whether shall prosper either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good. Be diligent throughout the day, and do not give up the labor that God's given you. Trust God for the harvest, knowing that the source of true success is hidden from man. The way I'm interpreting this and thinking about this, church, I'll be honest with you, we try to be wise with the church finances. Right now, the bank account with the deposits always been around, my numbers, maybe Miss Ronda's are different, consistently around $10,000 in the main, and $6,000-8,000 in the savings. We're going to be wise about it. Work hard, save the money, be wise, but also God's given it to spend. It's given it to use. Yesterday I went to the Farm and Fleet in Gaylord and bought 7 50-pound bags of salt. Spent about $70. And the hard part is the philosophy of it. Miss Ronda spent $70 to pour it into the parking lot. But really, I spent $70 to make sure Kathy doesn't trip on the ice and break a hip, right? That's what we're doing. Well, what about the money? God's going to take care of the money, church, right? It's just our job to work on our end and be faithful for it. I'm not going to, even though if somebody had the scratch off and wanted to, I would love, they make parking lots with heaters in them. All you got to do is turn on the heated parking lot. It melts the ice and snow right there. You never have to plow again. Factories use them for their skid loaders. I'd love to have one, but I'm not going to spend the $18,000 that the church has to try to install one here and say, well, I took the bank account to absolute zero. God's going to provide. That'd be foolish. But you balance that. Verse 7, and I'll end at the end of the chapter. Truly the light is sweet, and the pleasant thing it is for the eyes to behold the sun. But if a man live many years and rejoice in them all, yet let him remember the days of darkness, for they shall be many. All that cometh is vanity. Light itself is with the simple pleasures and the gift of sight and light, is a joy and blessing from God and ought to be appreciated. Enjoy the good things, he's saying. But even if we live a long, joyful life, they must never forget the approaching days of darkness, the certainty of death and the grave here. Knowing life is temporal or vanity should sharpen our focus on eternal things. We've talked about it. Guess what? I'll say it. My Ohio State Buckeyes are no longer, brother, are you listening? We're no longer the number 1 seed in the nation. There, I said it. We lost that spot. Indiana won. I'll face it. Because you know what it matters for time and eternity? Nothing. Right? Enjoy the game. Trust me. 11 o'clock last night, might have been waking up my kids that were sleeping. Touchdowns and bad calls. And I was enjoying the game. But what does it matter? Nothing. It literally doesn't matter. What does matter is one day you're going to die. And after that, the judgment. And that's what he's saying. Enjoy the good things, but don't forget that death is coming. And prepare for death. Everything else is vanity. Verse 9. Rejoice, O young man, in thy youth, and let thy heart cheer thee in the days of thy youth, and walk in the ways of thine heart, and in the sight of thine eyes. But know thou that for all these things God will bring thee into judgment. The only young people in the room are my kids. It's literally saying enjoy being young. It's fun to be young. Enjoy the days of thy youth. Adults, the Proverbs talk about enjoying the wife of thy youth. My wife and I got married in 2003. More than 20 years ago. Neither one of us are youths anymore. We are now the old people that I was calling the old people. Right? I said before, I remember when my dad had his surprise 40th birthday party at my grandma's house, and 40 sounded old. July, I turned 45. Enjoy being young. Have fun being young. Don't seek to grow up too fast. But keep in mind there is a judgment coming. It's not saying live loosely without God. It is saying trust God and have fun. Verse 10, therefore remove sorrow from thy heart. Put away evil from thy flesh. For childhood and youth are vanity. Flee from sorrow, youthful lust, evil from the flesh, because the time of thy youth is short-lived and passes away quickly. Use your vigor for God's purposes before it is gone. Timothy would say, let no man despise thy youth. Be young. But while no man is despising thy youth, be thou the example of the believer, in word, in charity, and doctrine, making full proof of thy ministry. There's nothing wrong with being young. And as I'm constantly preparing the church, I've already said, about 65 years old, 20 years from now, I do plan on being retired. And church, there's an issue I'm going to start preparing us for now. If a young kid, and I'll be old by 65, that does sound old to me now, 20-something comes in, 23, 24, 25 years old. College graduate, possibly, at least has been trained for the ministry by a good fundamental church. Looks at us and says, I'm young and I'm ready to be your pastor. Let him, if it's the God's will. We all want, many churches want, preachers with 20, 30, 40 years worth experience. But we pinhole them. Well, I want somebody with lots of experience. Well, how do you get experience? Let them pastor, right? Let them do that. I remember being young and trying to get my first credit card and living life that way. Well, how's your credit? I don't have any. Well, you need credit to get a credit card. Well, what's a good way to get credit? Get credit? Well, having a credit card. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. Well, we're not going to give you a credit card. And it was this circular. So let me finish and say that again. Even if I get a youth guy, he may be like 22 years old. We're going to let him be the youth guy. He's young. He's going to do things that young people do. And he's going to attract young people. That's the point. And young people don't grow up too fast. Betsy's coming to the piano. We'll finish maybe Ecclesiastes next week with Ecclesiastes 12. Standing quickly with their heads bowed and eyes closed, responding to the Word of God.